You're listening to the ESO Network, your station for all things geek.
So we're finally recording, and everyone can hear me. So now we can begin our Geek Out for today. I really tried to get the word out online. You know, hey, come to my library program. It's free. And no, nobody. So it's just us. It's alright. So, for today's cool. Geek Out. Huh?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Mm-hmm. Yep, just us. So, for today's Geek Out, look at this. Look at this.
Brilliant. Nice.
Glorious purpose. I have fulfilled my glorious purpose.
Time.
So, we're going to be talking about What If. We're doing this in 3 parts. So today we're doing part 1, which is going to be the first 3 episodes. Come November, the second 3, and then December, the last 3. So
awesome.
So
then we'll
with
all be,
us,
watching Hawkeye. That'd be great. And then we'll all be watching Hawkeye, but that's fine.
Yeah, I mean, there's so much coming out in Thanksgiving. Well, whatever. All right, so let me start doing an introduction because we haven't done one yet. My name is Montgomery. Sitting across from me is
Osmar.
And then we have below Osmar, my friend Gene.
Hello.
And below Gene, we have Patrick.
Hey, how's everybody doing?
So we've done this before, and we're doing this again. So I'm really kind of excited that we're geeking out again on something brand new, which is kind of dear to my heart. Not to tell a sad story, but What If is one of those comic book series that my stepfather introduced me to and started my love of comic book collecting.
Oh, wow.
I think we picked up like issue number 3, and then I loved it so much we started going back and like getting the whole thing. Wow. So week by week, we kept taking me to the exact same comic book store and start really filling out that collection. And I'm like, this is amazing. I truly love the What If series.
Mm-hmm.
Only because since what worked then is that because if you know the comic book history and how the characters all came to be, What If plays around with that timeline. Whereas the series now, it's more about the MCU, which is a little different, but you would have to be aware of what the MCU timeline is in order for this to work. So that's the only drawback. As well as the comic book one, too, because if you don't know, like, you know, how certain people get their powers, then I'm like, doesn't make a difference. That's the thing. Right off the bat, not that I would normally have done this at the beginning. I mean,
there are other ones, too. There are other editions.
I know there are other ones, but these are the classic ones that I know. That's through Hoopla, which I'm like, if you want to have your love and your fill of nostalgia, that's my thing. Especially the first volume. I think the first 20, not 25, but it's a lot in that first volume that really harkens back to a simpler time. Rosebud. But I really enjoyed all the different takes that the Watcher tells the story. And we get to go along for the ride. So we do have it in our digital collection, but nonetheless, one of the nerdy things that I remember, because of doing the Stranger Things and going back to the first season, there's a reference to the X-Men. I think it's 135, something like that.
I think they definitely mentioned an issue number.
Right. It's a reference to, because in this next season, the Hellfire Club comes up, which is a reference to what happened to Jean and being under the influence and her becoming later on the Dark Phoenix.
Mm-hmm.
So in this one issue, 137, I believe, when they're on the moon, Wolverine gets knocked into this structure, and then he finds that he comes encounter with the Watcher and tells Wolverine, it's like, you need to go. If you don't want to go, then here, I'll throw you across those different timelines. And I'm like, that's kind of cool. But again, that's just me being very nerdy and knowing some comic book history. Our first introduction to the Watchers, I'll ask this question. Name the movie in which the Watchers show up in the MCU.
Oh, me, I know. me.
Go ahead,
I
G.
believe that was Guardians of the Galaxy 2.
There you go. I have to look that up, because I know they were there, but I'm like, I wasn't sure if it was volume. So,
You're a
volume 2
vacuum.
is when they show up.
Okay.
There is some theory that Stan Lee's character is part
The
of
Watcher. Right.
the which one?
That Stanley's a Watcher. But sure, I don't know.
I heard that he's part of the TVA.
No.
And I'm like, oh, okay.
Okay.
I can go with that. I just think it's interesting that if you have the TVA, which are outside of time, and you have the Watcher that's outside of everything else, I don't know how it all works. But in any case, let's dive into the fact that we have our first animated series, which is Jeffrey Wright as Uatu, right? That's how you pronounce it?
Yeah.
Uatu?
Watcher.
I believe so.
Which is Jeffrey Wright. So, not that I don't mind his deep voice, but reading the comics, I had a different voice in my head, so it's just, that's alright.
He had a bigger head in the comic books.
The what?
He had a bigger head in the comic books.
Yeah. Much bigger head, smaller body, but still tall overall.
Mm-hmm.
And it's interesting, like, I didn't realize there was more than one Watcher. Like, he's one of many, but we only know this one character through What If. So, let's begin with our first episode, which I did not get to post this on Instagram, Gene, but Gene has the actual action figure. And he has, look at it on
Yay!
Wow.
In my hot, greedy hands.
It is a
I'm not
joy.
crazy. No, I'm just a big toy nerd.
It is a joy to see. I mean, considering that we watched this series again this morning and watching her first episode, I'm like, I really need to get that figure.
There's going to be 2 of them coming out.
I know,
one in
but
December.
I know, but I like the original
Winter
one.
Soldier one.
Yeah, I'm not,
Target. Good luck.
yeah. So let's begin with the first episode. I want to get your thoughts about what we did watch.
I watched this last night.
I watched it multiple times, so I didn't have to.
And like it gives you the beats and what happens, but then you're like, maybe watching the episode would be better.
The animation is amazing.
I really liked this episode because, I mean, when you go back and you watch Captain America: The First Avenger, Haley Atwell's character, Peggy Carter, it could be her movie. And I'm so glad that she got the spin-off of Agent Carter, and that went for 2 seasons. First season, amazing. Second season, different, but okay. And I like the way she fought for the show to continue, but didn't get it, but then gets this wonderful opportunity. I'm very happy with that.
I think they're muted.
Yeah, I know. I don't know what they're doing. Monty, if you can hear me, make your eyes bulge.
Sorry. No, I'm muted. Sorry, because I was moving the... Never mind. Go ahead, Osmar, as you were saying.
I like how the differences between like the movie and the show, and I also like how basically like she's a woman. Well, I don't like the part where she's basically like they treat her like differently, or like they set her off to the side because she's a woman in that day and age. Mm-hmm. And I feel like even watching the whole episode, they still kind of treat her a little differently. But I liked it. I liked at the part where I think it's Red Skull, where he has like that tentacle monster and it just grabs him. But yeah, overall, I thought it was good. I'm not like a big Captain America fan, but
What about Captain Carter fan?
She's all right. She's
What about you, Patrick?
I mean, she's basically Union Jack, but I think they did a fantastic job with her. And the type of character she portrayed, the actress portrayed as Peggy Carter, I think it was spot on. And they just, I mean, she did more crazier things than Captain America. Like, I mean, just lifting up the truck and showing her strength, even though the super soldier serum does that. But they really didn't spotlight it too much in the MCU movies, except for that one time where, from Bucky from leaving, he grabs onto the helicopter, grabs on the side. That's when you kind of saw Captain America's strength. But here, they really went all out with her. Like, they show you what the super soldier serum can do and how it can enhance. It was just well done. I was really impressed with how well they did it. And just the storyline, they really captured that time period as well. How they view women in the military at the time. So kudos to them. They did a fantastic job. I really like this episode. I've seen multiple times. It was just so well done.
Having rewatched it again, I still get excited by the action sequences that Peggy Carter was able to do. That's a little bit more dynamic than we ever seen Captain America even do himself. But as you mentioned, Osmar, the sexism that she still faced was still prominent, and it's unfortunate that that's a thing that still happens.
Because it was like, oh, he's Captain America, but here's also whatever Stomper. What was
the
that
Hydra
called?
Stomper.
Hydra Stomper.
Yeah, and that sure, she got the super serum, but women are not meant to go into war to break a nail, and I'm like, geez, But when she started winning, he takes all the credit. And I'm like, that's another thing. I'm like, as more things change, the more things stay the same. And we're still dealing with that, So, but I'm glad that there is this prominent figure that, as when I watch Wonder Woman, and I heard a lot of the female audience members cheering on Wonder Woman. And I'm like, that's what it feels like when we watch our guys. Why not have the same representation for them? And it's not to say that it's just for them, because I'm cheering on for Wonder Woman, I'm cheering for Captain Carter, I'm cheering for any hero. So it doesn't really make a difference whether they're a woman, they're a man, or they're gender fluid. It's just heroes. That's what we want. And as long as we can identify with them and go through their trials and tribulations, we want a hero to win all the time. And I think we should appreciate that it comes in all different forms. And it's not the straight traditional kind that we've seen many years before growing up. Overall, it is, again, visually striking how well this looks, how the action looks more dynamic and fluid than I've ever seen. I mean, the sequence that still kills me is like Peggy is jumping from airplane to airplane, killing the guys, throwing them out, and I'm just like, I don't care. It's a thing to behold, that you see something that's so fresh, even though we know the story done already. So, and I still like the fact that, Steve, even though he doesn't have the physical abilities, that she's still able to be attracted to a guy that's like literally half her size. And I'm like, it gives me kind of confidence, that, I may not have a whole lot of hair, but there's someone out there that will appreciate you for that, And that's the other thing too, is that the character that Steve has shines through. And unfortunately, we don't have enough of that in this world, that people appreciate one's character over their physicalness. So other than that, I was also impressed too with Ross McQuarrie? Forget how to pronounce his last name. He did the voice for the Red Skull, but he's also on The Walking Dead. And he does voices like across the board for everybody. So I'm glad that he was able to kind of use his voice talent here. And everybody's back. Sebastian Stan is back as Bucky. Dominic, I forgot his first.
Cooper.
What was it?
Dominic Cooper.
Cooper, thank you. Who plays Howard Stark is also back. Again, all these images are so dynamic. I just cannot have a better time watching this. And then, like here, in this one moment that she goes straight for the knee. Of course, I got that. And I'm like, she really takes him out. And I'm like, I really enjoyed that. Just because it's like, it reminds me like what Indiana Jones did, sort of, in the first movie, where you have the big Nazi at the end, like, come on, and like. So it just, again, it plays a lot of callbacks to that. But it's just so much fun to see that kind of energy through a character that, again, we've seen this done before, but here's someone who's never been able to experience that. So hopefully she's not the last of many heroes, but the first of many. Question to you guys. Because this plays more into the first Avenger movie, is that too much for this What If storyline? Or would you just say, okay, here's this one moment, she becomes the next Avenger, and then it changes completely and has a new story direction and all that?
I thought it was a good start. It was a safe start. It wasn't very risky. It was very much look, there it is, that moment. The moment she makes this decision to be down the ground, whatever. That's cool, but they don't stick to that. The next episode is slightly different, and then the third episode is completely, so then this other thing completely happens. So the show isn't consistent, but it doesn't have to be. Again, it's a speculative show on just what if this happened or such and such. It doesn't have to recreate exact moments. I did like the fact that it's paying very close homage to the movies it shows in the MCU. That's a lot of fun. And I do like the vocal talent when they can get it. I don't care that Robert Downey Jr., Scarlett Johansson, Chris Evans, these bigger people aren't back there. And sure, it's not perfect, but it's not supposed to be. It's close enough, And after a while, you're thinking like, Black Widow doesn't quite sound like that. Lake Bell is kind of, but then by the third or fourth episode with her in it, you're like, that's fine. It works. She finds her bearings and it's fine. But yeah, I'm really happy with the show. It's a good start. But again, this show particularly it just changes the characters between Steve and Peggy. You know what I mean? And does pretty much the same thing. The violence is amped up because it's animated, and you're pretty much immediately desensitized because it's a kid's cartoon, but you're like, well, there were people in that truck, but not anymore.
They're not people.
They're Nazis. No, well, see, they're animated. That doesn't matter. Yeah, it was a lot of fun. I was very glad that Haley Atwell get to stretch her imagination and become this other character. The new opportunity. I'm very, very much looking forward to anything more that we can get.
What about you, Patrick?
Like pretty much what he said. It's a lot of the things that, and I guess even down the road when they in other episode, but they really made her character that they could have went live action with this, and I think you would have got the same results. That's how well it was arranged. Because the story just it never stopped. Like it didn't like pause at one point and then you had to build it up. It was constant, which was great because that's very rare nowadays. You don't get that. So it was just something where you could follow through, even if you don't know the character. But this is easy to follow, even as a newcomer. If you were to see it for the first time, you can get what's happening, and you can follow through with it. Now, some of the characters in the background, when she rescues them, people will probably have maybe not know that situation. But since everybody's seen, majority of the MCU movies, they can pick and see like, oh, I see how this is different from, but they kind of matched all the scenes that if it was her, she would follow through with it with no problems. Or you would get it. You would understand that, oh yeah, I remember this in Captain America, that this happened. And so they took the right scenes so that even if it's you didn't know who Peggy Carter was, you can follow through with it and know that, oh yeah, I remember this in the Captain America movie. So they like I said, they did an awesome job with this episode.
With them, I'd love to see kind of more of this, like dealing with her. I'd love to see like what happens after, because she goes in after the, I guess, big tentacle monster, and then she comes out at, I guess, another time or like further in the future. So I'd love to see like what goes on with that. So yeah, I do basically agree with what they said. I'd like to see more, or a continuation of Peggy as Captain America.
Can I add one point? And you'd mentioned it, Osmar, which I like, because since Captain America was frozen, they couldn't recreate that. So in this case, she went through a dimensional portal, and then she came into the future. So I thought that was that was actually well done to get that same Captain America feel. So I agree with you, Osmar. They did this. It shows that they can do much more. And just imagine if she was there, like during the Infinity War or during Endgame, how would have done it? So they can even go even further. Like they can, how would she feel about the Registration Act that in Civil War? How would she have gone about it? So it's just, you can do a lot. I mean, they can do a whole what if. Would you do the same exact thing, or how would she go about it?
See, that's the thing that I appreciate if you're following comic books, you understand this is the storyline and here are the beats that I know what's going to happen. And I don't mind little tweaks here and there. Like everything that Peggy did, Steve Rogers did it similar, but she had her own spin. So unlike falling into the ice, she gets stuck into the portal, which is a nice variation of the exact same thing. How do you take a person that is from one period to the next? You just do it that way. And that works fine. I love
the way that she reappears in the same area where Loki appeared in the Avengers. The same characters there, same setup. That was lovingly recreated. And again, the thing is, like, again, the writer of this, the lead writer of this was A.C. Bradley, and that person, I don't know if it's male or female, but they had to write all the episodes and tie it in all together, which is really, at this point we didn't know what they were going to do. But again, we're only going to be talking about the first 3 episodes. It was such a wonderful question that, that is put together towards the end very well, I thought.
Yeah. Because I guess what I'm trying to say is that because I knew there was a roadmap of where the episode was going to go to, I just want to see how
they would be a roadmap, though. We were hoping.
Right. It's like I know I'm hoping it ends the same way, but they can tweak it and change it up a bit. But as we go into the other stories, sure, they pick a point in a storyline in the MCU, but then it goes off in a new adventure that I'm like, I don't know where this is going. So, it's good and bad, and I can appreciate what they're doing, but to me, I think the familiarity of where Captain Rogers was and then where Peggy's going align perfectly for me. At least, like you said, it's a good introduction and safe episode to go into. Mm-hmm. Because if you were to do something like episode 3 as your first one, you would have lost your audience immediately. There was no reason for that. So, but all right. So let's move on to number 2. What if T'Challa became a Star-Lord? It should be more like the Star-Lord, not a Star-Lord. Right. It's not a formal title. I will say, rewatching it even all the way through, and then the title, in memory of Chadwick Boseman, I'm welling up again because it's his performance is stellar. As much as I love Peggy Carter, Chadwick Boseman's performance, I think is just stellar. It's just the thing that stands out more than anything else out of the whole series is this one episode and it is so full of life. You know.
He knew his character, performed his character very well. A quiet man, whispering voice, but very strong ideals and ideology. And again, yeah, but really, the fact that he's gone, and you only got like 4 episodes of him during this series, but this one was the most difficult, I thought, because he has a big part in it. Really remind you what a fun actor he was, even just vocally.
Yeah, right. And I think that's the thing it's a nice twist, and I'm like, is this now a question? It's like, who was a better Star-Lord? Is it T'Challa, or do we have the regular Star-Lord? I mean, in fairness, it's a different version of Star-Lord that I appreciate, and like I wish that could be, a continuation of that character. I would follow this, but unfortunately, I would just like with Black Panther 2, I don't want that to be recast. If you want to do another Star-Lord, fine, do another Star-Lord, but not someone pretending to be Chadwick. What are your thoughts, Osmar?
I love just to see Thanos just hanging out with them, just like, oh yeah, by the way, I work through my issues, and Chad as Star-Lord, he's just like, yeah, what is it that he said? He gardens or something?
I don't know.
He knits or he gardens or something now. I just,
But, I love the fact that it's like, it still sounds like genocide, but it's more efficient. And I'm like, that's...
You talking about Thanos? I missed that part. So
yeah.
I had to...
That's okay. But, because he was bringing up Thanos, and I'm like, the Thanos thing is like, I admit that I was wrong. But I'm just saying...
That was hilarious.
Efficient.
Yeah.
I actually like that. That was the part that, and every now and then he would explain his reason. I think it will work, and they're like, "No, I don't think that's a good idea."
This was such a feel-good episode.
Yeah,
for me. It felt really great just watching it all the way through.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it.
I again, as much as the first one packed in a lot of action, this is just packed in just as much with a lot of storyline within 30 minutes. That I'm like, it feels so much fuller than just 30 minutes.
Agreed.
What were your thoughts on this episode, Patrick?
What I liked about it, I mean, once again, it's like they're, it just shows that his presence was much bigger compared to what's his name's character, Chris Pratt's version. It's like, because his personality just pretty much makes everybody good around him. And he just knows how to be that leader type character. So it just, I guess Black Panther has that, in the MCU with Wakanda. So putting him in there, he's not even though he's a thief, but he's like that. I don't know if you remember from that old the Disney movie with the fox that was playing Robin Hood. It just has that same feel, like it's like I'm a thief, but I do things for a purpose, in a sense. And the fact that he's all about exploring, he's like the positive aspect, whereas Chris Pratt's version of Star-Lord is where he was just there out of circumstance.
Yeah, which is interesting about the nurture versus nature. Like, is T'Challa's nature always that way? That he's always going to be like that? Or does he get shaped by his environment? Because, honestly, it just seemed like it was the reverse, because his character rubbed off on everybody else for T'Challa. Whereas the other way around, Star-Lord, his got shaped by the Ravagers. So, I mean, later on he does change, but it just seems like T'Challa's character is a lot more stronger willed. More mature. Yeah, that's a good word.
But that's a strange thing, too, also, because he gets abducted around the same age that Peter Quill would have been abducted around, I think. But he's royalty. And he was raised as a king and to be diplomatic, which I think is, again, amazing, the changes. it was fun to see it happen, to learn about it as the story continued forward. And see all the changes and all the little cameos. You're like, wow, that's great.
Oh, and then of course the ship is called the Mandala. Again,
Mandela.
Yeah,
those little touches
Yeah.
instead of the Milano. And I'm like,
these was
I
an
get it.
interesting time.
So those are the moments that I'm like, I really appreciate the callbacks to things like that. That if you're going to change things, change it to little moments like that. I appreciate because you can pick it up. You don't have to draw wide strokes to paint that canvas. These little moments make it so much worth it to appreciate what they do.
So has your opinion changed on this episode? Because I remember the first time you saw this, you weren't that big a fan on this.
No, I think what I love more about it is the performance with the voice acting. Mm-hmm. The story were like, I can kind of like dismiss it, but the more I'm listening to his performance and how infectious it gets to everyone else, even the guy that he's fighting, the first guy, I forgot his name, is a lot more lively than he's ever been in any Marvel.
I don't know. I know the actor.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, but he's like geeking out over here.
Right, exactly. Yeah, so it's like it's so infectious, and that's what makes it so much more fun because it's like everyone is part of this gang, and you want to be part of this.
Kind of sets the mood,
right?
Yeah.
So, and I think that's the fun thing is like you want to be part of this guy's life.
You can do more adventures. See, it seems like so far, and not to cut you off, that so far these first 2 episodes you can do spin-off series from these 2 episodes alone. You can do each one can do one, and it'll work because they have the team chemistry, they have these storylines, and you don't really have. I mean, you can just do adjustments, but you can even do new stories. That's what I like about it.
So what I was saying is that before when you left was that I didn't want I would love to this continue, like someone else can be a Star Lord, but not to have someone replace Chadwick Boseman as T'Challa as Star Lord, like Black Panther 2. Get someone else. Don't do that. Just stop. Let's leave it be. Let's just have someone else. And Taserface stays alive. Although they never mentioned his name in the episode. So
didn't want to pay him. So call him in the back, but have him say nothing. Okay, well.
I want you to tell them Taserface. Taserface. All right. So let's move on to our last one. What is it the best?
There's something that happens that I.
This was the one that you had no idea what was going to happen. It was completely new.
Is it?
But I did like the way that it points out that 3 major events happened in 1 week. That's the key.
Literally. Yeah.
It was interesting.
I had no idea which way it was going.
I will give it on the second time around. I'm like, it is a lot to take in because it's like you're trying to form this team and the team is being taken out before it gets done. The only qualm that I have about this is the last couple of moments of how it all ends, and I'm like, really?
Yeah.
Just like that, Loki takes over. I don't buy it.
But that pays off later on in the series.
Does it? I don't remember.
It rounds off. It does, because we return to this universe where these Avengers are killed off, and there's a replacement made. There's a switch off. Because we return back to this universe.
Okay, then I have to see that again because I thought because Loki was
I think you sure this universe or was
it's this universe? Do you want to get into spoilers now? It takes place in the last episode.
We'll wait. I'll give us something to work on. But I could have sworn that it ended with here. He's now ruler of all, and that's it. So, But that was my only thing. Everything else, like, I can live with Hank Pym just being crazy.
And I can't believe they got Michael Douglas back for that. Here, go crazy.
They paid him some money. It was money.
I mean, again, I found it a little weird that Coulson was a little bit more of a fanboy, if I want to be nice about this.
You're Steve's fanboy, not Thor's fanboy. I don't care that he smells like lavender. That's weird.
So I'm like, stay late. You know, like, what's your password? Steve.
Steve loves Steve Heart, Steve Stars, Steve something.
But even Hawkeye mentioned, it was like, no, guy has really long, luscious hair. It was like,
he smells like flowers or something.
I mean, I could, but I'm not going down that road. I thought it was, again, what I liked about it is that we played into moments from all the introduction movies for all of our characters, except for Iron Man 2, which is kind of like the worst one, but it's not by far the worst MCU movie, by far. But, you know, I like the fact that we get to see Tony Stark in the donut place and eating donuts, and we see that moment happen.
I'm surprised it ended up in shawarma.
That would be cool too, but, you know, I guess they chose whatever they did to start.
That isn't quite right, because shawarma is later, much later.
Yeah, that's the thing.
It didn't form properly in this universe.
Yeah.
True.
But, you know, I think what was nice also was the callback for the Hulk with Edward Norton, but they did with this guy. Mark Ruffalo. So to replace him with that, but still play that moment that Ross was still there. Now, granted, I would have been nice to see the Abomination, but I'm like, you don't have time for this. It's not going to be focusing on that. Because I don't think we got another Hulk episode at all, right? So that was, like, I think, the one in a long time we get to see him.
He does show up in the zombie episode.
Yeah. Because going back to the comics, you know, it was what if Rick Jones became the Hulk instead of Dr. Bruce Banner.
But this isn't anything like that.
No, I know.
These are what ifs on the MCU.
No,
which made
right.
it so surprising to me.
Right. So this had nothing to do with the comics whatsoever. So it's its own thing, but you have to be aware of that universe in order for this to work. Because otherwise, it doesn't make a difference.
I don't know if you need to know that. This pretty much teaches you about the multiverse. If you watch Loki, this makes perfect sense. You wouldn't have to know about the comic books.
No.
This could be just a...
You would have to know the movies and how they got to that point. Like, you have to realize in Iron Man 2, or in the first Iron Man, how Tony meets Nick Fury.
Right.
Episode 2, you need to find out how Romanoff comes into this scenario.
It's pretty self-explanatory. The show's called What If, and we now know, if you watch Loki, about the multiverse potential in it. You don't need to know.
Well, Kevin said not to watch any of this.
I know. I'm sure he regrets that.
And going back to what we were talking about before is that, you know, now we have to even watch this series because this really kind of leans into the multiverse more so.
But this was the lowest watched series. No one's watching this.
I'm
this
sure.
This is one of my favorites.
Yeah. I'm sure when it all comes out, people will be rewatching. It's like, what happened in this movie? I don't understand. I have to go back and watch this. I just have a feeling that's what's going to happen. Because we watched those new movies with hopefully Spider-Man still in December and then Doctor Strange being moved now a couple of months further down, that it all comes together, but you would have to understand this backstory. So just like you would have to understand for this story, the storylines for the past episodes or past movies for the MCU in order for this to work.
Right. This is a treat if you've watched the other movies.
But still, we end with all the heroes pretty much being dead, except for we get Captain Marvel coming back, which, I mean, in essence, that's all you really need, right?
Captain Marvel and Captain America.
Yeah, but let's be honest. You just need Captain Marvel. I mean, if she's that overpowered, that's all you need.
Yeah, but the next time you see her, she's fighting a whole bunch of Lokis on the helicarrier. Spoilers.
So is that the one you were referring to?
Yes.
Oh,
That's the
okay.
universe. We go back to this same universe. So because everyone gets their happy ending ish.
I don't think that's how it works.
Wow.
It's all subjective.
Other than that, again, another. If you like the original guys coming back doing the voice acting, all right, that's fine.
That was another thing that was cool. I think the fact that they're willing to come, majority of them are willing to come back and do it to give it
Yeah.
that authenticity. That's a great. That's what even makes it stand out even more.
Yeah.
It's a lot of fun. It has a lot of authenticity to it. It's like, yeah, we're all a big team, except for Robert Downey Jr., Brie Larson, Chris Evans, Scarlett Johansson, and these other people. Like you could say, if Scarlett Johansson was suing them, this was done over a year ago.
Yeah.
So
There's no way to have seen this comic.
but it's so much fun. I'm so happy with the whole thing.
We'll do a ranking for these first three episodes. What order would you put them in? First being number one, last one being not necessarily the worst, but the bottom of the three. We'll start with Eugene.
I'm gonna go old school. I like the Captain Carter one the best for me. Even though Chadwick is great,
Yeah.
that's my number two. But the Murdering Avengers one, the mystery, although the most innovative, I think, it doesn't work out for me. It's the last one.
Okay.
In my opinion.
All right. What about you, Patrick?
I think pretty much the order is fine.
Yeah.
It was a toss up between the Star-Lord one because it's just I don't know. Even though I do respect the fact that it was we that's his last, well, not his last, but it was him playing his part and you hearing his voice. But the Peggy Carter one it stood out to me more, even though I've seen the Chadwick Boseman one just as much, but
Right.
I don't know, for the sake of story, it held very close to like if it was her doing it, she probably would have done close to the same things what Steve Rogers would have done, and the Star-Lord one, the only difference is I don't know if everybody's going to be agreeing upon his side, like, oh, he's such a great guy, let's join him. I mean, it's a great episode and I still like it, but I don't know if it's true to the characters, and I'm speaking from an MCU standpoint, not from a comic book standpoint. I don't know, they're all going to be like, oh, he's such a great guy, let's follow him, and he knows what to do.
Yeah.
Some of them would. I don't think all of them. But it's still a great story nonetheless, and it's a great tribute to him. But I think the Peggy Carter one was more authentic, where you can see these things play out. If it was, by her being there instead of Steve Rogers.
Right. Cool. All right. What about you, Osmar?
For me, it would be, I think, the Star-Lord first, this one, and then Peggy. This one I'm gonna be second because I just really love this. I really liked when the Hulk exploded.
Wow.
Okay.
That was the best part. I saw that and it really stopped.
All right.
So, yes.
If you could put it in those terms, I mean,
Hulk exploded.
the arrogant Iron Man get taken out. Thor, he thought he was worthy. He's not. And then Hulk gets blown up.
They get their just deserved.
They kill Romanoff, and I'm like, okay. So I mean, but in fairness, in the order that it came out, with Carter being first, Star-Lord being second, and this one being the third, I'm good with that order. I'll be interested to see when we get through the next two, or to the last one, I should say. When we look at all of them, where that order goes, because
it's going to change. Your opinion's
a lot
going
to
to
say
change.
about that.
it will change.
Yeah, there was this. It's funny you mentioned that because the last episode, the last two episodes, I was talking with my friends about that, and there was like two things, but there was one in particular that, especially the last episode, they had to go. You had to go online so that they can explain why. I'm not so much. I guess because people had a problem with a particular scene, and I had a problem with it. That they had to literally go online and explain it. Like the creator had to explain it. I think it's a weak way, but like I said, we'll talk about it in December.
We'll get there. We'll get there.
No soup for you.
Speaking of which, the next one, our second What If, will be on November 17th. So we have What If Doctor Strange lost his heart?
That's a very good episode.
Oh, yeah. Oh.
That's a very good episode.
I think, again, like, we didn't see that connection in the movies, but I think it works to some level, like why he is doing what he's doing. But I have to rewatch it again. What If Zombies, I really enjoyed, just because I used to read the comics. And this is as close as we'll get to seeing that can be redone in a different medium. And then What If Killmonger had rescued Tony Stark? Again, I like the playing around of familiar storylines. Just here's a new situation. And then part 3 will be December 15th. So right before Christmas, we'll be all done talking about all this. So it's like, what if Thor was an only child? What if Ultron won? And then what if the Watcher broke his oath? Which I have issues, but we'll wait till then to talk about.
Because I want more action figures. I want more action figures.
Oh, I think you'll get it at the rate that they're going. I will not be surprised.
Yeah. All right. So next week, Osmar will not be here.
On the 23rd? Yeah.
So we're doing our Halloween special. So it's basically talking about horror movies from books being made into horror movies or vice versa. What else? Movies in general, candy, other scary things. So we should have a good conversation on that. And then November 3rd, we start the last part of Season 3 of Stranger Things. So still no word as to when Season 4 will happen, but it's still 2022. So we'll be ready for that anyway.
Would that be the last season?
It's supposed to be. I'm supposing that it's going to be the last season, and it better be.
Hopefully.
Yeah,
because the kids are already old enough. You don't need to drag us out anymore. We're good.
Yeah. They run their.
The course is done. We've done it all. So
I mean, I'm sure they can do spin-offs, but at this point, you're gonna do it in the 90s now?
Right, exactly. Yeah, we'll just leave it be. All right, guys. So, any final thoughts before we go?
It's sci-fi from a certain point. No, never mind.
Shut up. That's a different podcast, man.
The website.
If you listen to the show, he never gets that right. So, luckily, you don't have to worry about that today.
I know.
And it's less cursing.
Yeah, true. I'm not angry at a movie this time. I'm drunk, Mr. Gene. Okay.
But it was actually, I give Marvel credit for even doing a What If, as a animated series. So whoever came up with the concept to do it, I'm thoroughly impressed. My only concern is that I can see as time goes on, and it even happened in the comic books, they're going to do some of the most weirdest what ifs, or just put a what if and then they just do it. I see where I can see it can get watered down after a while, and they're going to have a lot of what you call I forgot the name of it, but when you just get some of these episodes of just fillers, I can see that as time goes on, if this continues on, you're going to see a lot more fillers where they won't be as exciting. And keeping it at 9 episodes per season, it's the less episodes the better, because that means they can focus on doing proper stories instead of just doing a series in each season. They just put out, after a while it's is going to get watered down, and that's my biggest worry. Like, it's a good idea, but I can see in the long term it can get watered down.
I think that I don't think that you need to worry about that too much, because again, this is going to take a while to redo to make the next series. Plus, there's going to be so much new content on here, and it was supposed to be
True.
10 episodes because of COVID. The 10th episode was supposed to be like, what if Tony Stark went to Shakaar, right? Which is why you had Gamora and Stark in the 9th episode, but that's spoilery.
Right.
Oh, here we go. All right.
I don't
They're
think
starting
you're going to.
early. Wow, I was giving them props for like maybe season 3 that they'll start to. Wow, they're starting early.
I don't think there's going to be a season 3. I mean, because there'll be so much. You got Moon Knight. You got
Right.
what Marvel Go coming on. You got so many shows coming on. So you know they're trying to fill the slots now, but they can take their time with the shows, which is nice.
Mhm.
So I don't think you need to worry about filler things. They'll make sense. Hope.
Well, it's a good thing Marvel Studios doesn't follow their comic book sister, because Marvel's notorious for that.
They just steal. They just steal the best ideas from them and put them up on the big screen.
Yeah, and the crazy thing, if you look at the history of that, they, when I forgot the editor in chief at the time, I think it was Bob Harris. I think they said that it was a bad idea that he gave away the licensing to the movie studios, and that actually cost him his job. And now they're reaping the benefits off it. They never even, I don't even hear them acknowledging his name. And mind you, they went bankrupt. They were about to fold as a company. If it wasn't for the fact that the anti-monopoly laws is what they were able to do what they call when they filed for chapter, I think it was chapter 13 and a chapter, I forgot which chapter. They filed 2 chapters. Huh?
Was it 11?
Yeah, they filed 2 chapters. I just don't remember which one. There's either a 7, 11, and a 13, but I don't remember which one is which. And think about it. It was literally Sony that saved Marvel because of the rights that they had for Spider-Man, and that's what actually got them out of their debt. And they just, so it's crazy how that, that one idea that which they shunned, and they basically got rid of the guy for coming up with that concept to save the company. Now they're pretty much a multi-billion-dollar, studio, and I don't hear his name being mentioned. Irony.
Talk about a what if story. What if Sony had taken the deal and got all the characters? Because in reality, all they want is like, no, we just want Spider-Man. We don't want anybody else. Imagine that deal, just like, no, we'll take him. We would not have an MCU.
That is true. Actually, there's 2 things that made MCU what it is. The failure of Green Lantern and the movie rights given to the studios. Those 2 factors is what made Marvel what it is. They forget about that. It took a sacrificial lamb of Hal Jordan to that movie going bad because they realized, okay, we're not going to follow. Kevin Feige's like, we're not going to follow that route. We're going to go this way, because they waited. I don't know if you saw it was I think either I read it or I saw the documentary. I think I read it where he was saying that they thought Green Lantern if Green Lantern had done well, then Marvel they wouldn't have come through that concept of the way the MCU is set up. They were going to wait till DC kind of like, if they made any fails, then they would come out. But because of that failure of Green Lantern, they realized this is not the way to go. And they reevaluated how they're going to pursue their movies. So that's what it took. Those little things people don't know. They just, because I attend a debate with my friend who's a pro Marvel. I mean, he's into DC too, but he gives Marvel like all this credit, and I keep telling him, it's like, yeah, you can give him all the credit you want, but that's another what if situation, or in DC terms, Elseworlds.
There you go.
So those little things, those little factors, it wasn't Marvel just coming out with stuff and they were just great. No, those other factors took place. If those things did not happen, we would not be even having an MCU right now.
All right, so let's give credit where credit is due. So,
any final thoughts, Gene? Gene, any final thoughts?
no, I'm good. Thank you.
Okay, what about you, Osmar?
Good. Thank you.
Good. There was something I was going to mention, but I'm blanking out what that is because it was like, oh, thought-provoking, compelling, and I forgot it. So,
What are they coming out? That's Eternals.
Yeah, we got the Eternals coming out, and then we got Spider-Man.
Yep.
Looking forward to Spider-Man. Eternals, I don't know how that's going to play out.
I don't. I read some. Well, I didn't. Well, I glanced at some of the reviews, and it's got a lot of positive reviews. I didn't read them all because I didn't want to get the spoilers, but so far it's getting some very good reviews. Actually, to me, it looks worthy of seeing.
Okay.
I know Spider-Man's going to be good, so I'm not too
Right.
I'm not too worried about that. But I think the Eternals, and I think, and especially if you understand how the Eternals work, it's going to help usher in other stuff. So what we've learned about the MCU up to this point is putting in certain characters and certain storylines at this point is to help bring about other. So, I think it'll. So far, it looks like it could be.
Alrighty.
I haven't heard anything negative yet.
We'll keep our fingers crossed, and when we see it on streaming, we'll talk about it then.
Most definitely.
Yeah. All right, guys. So thank you, as always, for coming for today's Geek Out. So thank you, Patrick. Thank you, Gene. Thank you, Osmar. Thanks for coming today, guys. Have a great night. Good weekend. Stay safe.
Be safe.
All right. Take care.
Welcome to Dr. Geek's Laboratory.
Dr. Geek here with another reminder that the ESO Network is pro-science and pro-vaccine. We urge you to be a superhero and protect yourself, your family, and your fellow geeks around the world. Don't be fooled by the forces of evil and their anti-science misinformation campaign. Consult the latest CDC guidelines, your doctor, and get the COVID vaccine today.
How did watchdog groups with no experience in television take a controlling interest on Saturday morning television?
When did Wonder Woman make her animated debut?
Want to know why there were two competing Ghostbuster shows?
How Atari changed the Saturday morning landscape?
How did networks compete over similar genres at the same time?
Find out all of this and more on the Best Saturdays of Our Lives podcast.
A proud member of the ESO Network.
This has been a broadcast of the ESO Network. Be part of the crew and help support our shows by donating to our ESO Patreon or by shopping for the TeePublic store, which can all be found at www.esonetwork.com. The ESO Network, your station for all things geek.